Welcome to The Implementer, Sage's technical enablement podcast with me, Liam Knight, partner success manager Ross Simm.
Hello.
And this episode, we've also got senior Intacct Consultant Liam Sharpe. The premise of The Implementer is simple: introduce you to key topics that make or break implementations. To help you avoid making the same mistakes we've made, we'll share best practice and all the mistakes we've made. We know our podcast now has a home on YouTube, so we can say without shame, please like and subscribe. As it stands, the first episode only has a couple of hundred views, and Ross has already pointed out that 100 are probably mine. And the rest. So in order to build up more of a following, I'm going to litter this episode with references to conspiracy theories, mainly about ancient civilizations, global cataclysms, easy enough for me to say, and ancient Egypt. And that's probably the only available content on my YouTube feed for the last 5 years, so it should go nicely. The ancient Egyptians loved gold, which leads us smoothly on to this episode's subject, golden images. That's also why we've recruited Liam from Ion, Sage Intacct Partner of the Year, as a golden image is central to what Ion offer. We'll start with really quick intros, and then I'm going to quiz you on some numbers. So if you could just give us a bit of background on you and your role, and then I'd also like your favourite conspiracy theory.
Fine. Shall I go first? Yeah. Left to right. So I've been at Ion about 4.5 years. Prior to that, I used to work directly for Sage on a team with Liam. That didn't cause confusion at all. We used to do a lot of Sage Intacct for education. So I've left and went to do Intacct. On my first day of sitting next to my CEO, he said, "Can you please build me an education demo lab?" And I was like, let's go for it. 4.5 years later, we've been implementing 70 plus MAT implementations. So we're all doing well. My conspiracy theory is a bit of a tenuous link from Egypt and also based on last night's success with Scotland. Many years ago, David Moyes was probably the most vocal advocate for this conspiracy theory, that he thought that when draws were done, FA Cup draws, League Cup draws, he was convinced that some of the balls had been heated up and chilled, so that some of the draws that were made, where he was a big team or a small team, he would get a good or a bad draw, and he was convinced it was because someone had been heating up the balls that were going into the draw.
Well, I didn't expect that you were going to come to the table with heated balls as your conspiracy theory, but there you go.
Good one.
Yeah. When was that?
When he was manager of Everton, and he's convinced he was getting really bad draws every week, and years ago, and getting like Arsenal away and Liverpool away and all those sort of fixtures. But then he obviously went on to Man United and probably got the good end of those draws. But yeah, I think Arsene Wenger was also a bit of an advocate for that conspiracy theory as well. But yeah. The old Rod Stewart, big time. Yeah, that way, is that, yeah.
Stewart, isn't it?
That was the only thing going through my mind there.
Yeah.
Rod Stewart, brilliant.
Come on then, Ross.
So yeah, my name's Ross Simm. I'm the partner success manager at Sage. Been in role just over a year now, but been at Sage for about 12 years. All the way through from working with Liam to managing, leading teams, now engaging with all our partners across the Intacct space, Ion being one of them. Really supporting them once they're in life, how they can grow and develop, working with the tools, developing new tools, new processes, and similar to what Liam touched on at the start, actually just engaging with them to understand their best practices and learning from them and how we can adapt the way we work into the channel and make it a two-way street. So this session all about golden images is a really, really good one. My conspiracy theory, I had a couple of them in my head because Liam's already pinched the footballing one. I'm going to go for the classic, the flat earth one. Now, the reason I'm saying this is in one of my old jobs years ago, I had to work in Australia and I had to do some charity work, i.e. get some money out of people to support a charity in Africa. And I spent 2 hours with this one guy who was showing me, if you rip a towel like this, that water flies off it. If you have a wet towel and you spin it, water flies off. Yeah. That's why the earth is flat, because the water in the earth doesn't do that. I got $5 out of this guy.
So you sat and listened to it and then took
For
his
2
money.
hours,
Thank you very much.
I got $5. I probably saved someone's eyesight in Eritrea in Africa. But the flat earth is the one that jumps into my mind straight away. And supposedly there's a pot of gold on either side of the earth. So if you sail that way, which is what the old sailors used to do, that was where your treasures would be found.
I'll be honest, I was hoping for Bigfoot conspiracy theories and then sort of alien conspiracy theories. They were top of my list, but it was mainly so I could start talking about those documentaries, like about when Bigfoot moves in with a Henderson, that documentary. Seen that one?
The one about someone going home?
The documentary about the alien that,
Yeah, that one
always
going home,
wants to
yeah,
go
yeah.
home and rides bikes in the sky. Good documentaries, those. Right. So we'll move on from intros and we'll get stuck into the subject, which is golden images. So there'll be a key question first to open things up, and then we'll try and get a little bit more information from you that'll set us up nicely for the rest of the chat. So first of all, to both of you, what is a golden image?
You take that one.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So for us, a golden image is, we call it a shell or a template, ultimately, that we can apply onto a completely blank environment that will either save us some time, provide some key setup within the environment, and ultimately, for us, it's industry specific. I think that is probably the idea of them. So there's some things that we can do with a golden image, there's some things that we know that we can't do. So we can't save an entire implementation by just applying a golden image. That would be the absolute dream. But it's certainly saving us some time at the moment to basically give us a huge shortcut on an implementation, rather than starting from scratch every single time. We're starting with a bit of a 2-day head start. It's the best way we can probably describe it.
So you mentioned that it's like a template, and there's a few different templates or terms about templates that are probably just worth clearing up. So we've got a golden image template. There's also a quick start template. So what are the differences between a quick start and a golden image?
So I would say that a quick start template has been designed over many years by Sage and obviously previously Intacct to provide an out-of-the-box mapping for all your general ledger codes, to provide some default financial reports that people can theoretically from day one run things like profit and loss, balance sheets, all the key management reports that you need. But because it's hard coded and it's been set up to be kind of industry specific, so you can have like services and not-for-profit ones, they have slightly different terminologies and languages. They're great for certain industries, but they don't work for us because the language that they use is in some parts quite Americanized, which isn't an issue if you want in that kind of languages. But in some elements, like revenues use quite a lot of the world, whereas in, say, the NFP or the education world that we work in, they talk income and expenditure, not profit and loss. They're sort of different languages. So for us, they're great. They can give us a bit of a starting point, but the golden image allowed us to basically write our own mappings and use our own languages.
Excellent. So you could still use a quick start template as a base for your golden image, but then that golden image allows you to really build out a ton of extra stuff. Want to expand on any of that before we go to numbers? Or
The only thing I would mention to it, and I think you've actually articulated it really well there, is from a success point of view, a couple of real sort of buzzwords that jump out are a kind of accountability and ownership. You know your clients, you know your vertical better than majority of others, to actually build that golden image based on your experiences, your knowledge, not just gives you a head start, but you know what your clients want. So actually seeing that terminology, that stuff's actually a real bit of accountability and ownership to go right from day one when we're doing our sales pitch, we're doing our sales demo, they're actually seeing the same variant, that same terminology all the way through. I think it's massive, not just only for you getting ahead of the game, but actually that consistency, that going to your client, this is what you will see, and this is what they actually do see, to great bit of accountability to go, this is ours, this is what we own, we're going to maintain it, which I know we'll talk about later on.
yeah, even with like our NFP golden image we built, the feedback, even at like in a pre-sales stage, is that it's great to see like language we understand. So it might be like that we've got donors or funds in there, or we've renamed dimensions. So yeah, that definitely carries across well. So we'll have a look at numbers next, and then we'll delve into a bit more on golden images and how we'd look to build them and some other things. So I don't know whether to do these one by one or to just give you them all, all right, and give you a moment or two to work out what's what. 4 of them are related to golden images, right? Can you guess which one is related to a conspiracy theory?
Wow. I'm not sure if people can see these numbers, but they're not exactly.
I'd say 5,000 isn't probably going to be linked to golden images because I can't necessarily think what that would be. 5,000 partners aren't using them, and there isn't 5,000 golden images. So I'm potentially going to think something 5,000.
So
I'm not going straight in, but I just think that would be a bit of an anomaly based on the rest of the numbers being 40, 18, 19, and 7.
So
being quite low.
5,000 is conspiracy theory. We'll come back to that one and what it is.
Okay.
All right, forget about the rest.
Don't worry.
Don't need to know anything more about these.
We'll turn off that good one.
But so you said something about how many partners are using golden images and maybe how many golden images there are. So that's 2 of these numbers, all right? So
7 partners and there's 19 images, maybe?
I was going to say there's a bit of, I've got a bit of inside information. So the numbers aren't as high as what you'd probably think and as what we'd like. It's probably fair to say.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that you've gone 7 and 19 is probably a really good shout. I wish I could remember them off the top of my head. I've let myself down, but yeah, I think they are the lower numbers. So I think 7 partners using them is that one.
So actually, it's not that one.
Oh.
So this one's probably the trickiest out of the lot. So we've got 19 golden images in our library. So they've been created by partners and us. So 19 exist in the list as it stands. Okay. So in terms of the number of partners that are actually using golden images, we've got 40% or 18% to pick from. Do you want to think that is?
I've got the lower number of 18% as well, yes.
Lower number.
It's about 30 partners, is
so
it?
only 18% of partners are actually actively using golden images, which isn't what we want. We want to see that go up. So we've got 40% and 7 left.
40% of implementations use a golden image?
I think one of those numbers is out of the, how much time is saved when a golden image is used.
7 minutes. Then.
7 minutes.
What built?
Yeah.
So the 7 is actually plus 7 NPS points on average when using a golden image. So better NPS results using a golden image. And then this is about time. So 40% faster to go live. Okay. So some really good numbers there on the benefits that golden images can bring and the numbers of partners that are using them. Back to my favourite and most important one, though, 5,000. Got any ideas what that could be?
Could be a year.
It is years.
It is years.
5,000 years.
What happened 5,000 years ago, Liam?
Ancient Egyptians or something. Just make an educated guess.
You've got the theme of this down to a T. So yeah.
I discovered gold.
5,000 years ago, the Egyptians built the pyramids, according to mainstream archaeology. Not so sure about that.
Copy and paste?
They didn't build it from scratch. Well, maybe they did.
So we won't dwell too much on this last number, okay? How the pyramids were actually built remains a mystery. But how to build a golden image, thankfully for us, is a bit more straightforward, okay? So I suppose you've covered the question in where do you use golden images at Ion already, okay? So that's with an industry specific solution. If you can make something that's micro verticalized or verticalized, that's a really good start. We've utilized golden images at Sage too for a number of years. So we used to have a template that was used to assist migrations from Sage 50. So a lot of stuff was configured to mirror what Sage 50 looked like and behaved like in Intacct. More recently, we've got an NFP image that we use. The solutions consultant team have got a library of images as well.
So yeah, industry standards, industry solutions, 4 or 5 available to everybody,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, that's it. So the stuff that we've built, we can share. Ion probably won't let you have a look at their image, which is understandable.
For a pretty penny.
What opportunities do Golden Image present? That's the next question. Why do it?
For me to start off, and you'll have a lot more exposure than this one, Liam, but I think why do it? I think you've already touched on it. There's a time-saving element to it, and consistency are the two things that I would instantly talk about. And then the third element is that actual ownership. It is Ion's to tweak. You have one, you can create a slight variant of it for another micro vertical. You can have numerous ones. There's no limit on the amount you can have. So for me, as a non-techie working at Sage, it's a bit of a no-brainer, but the time saving, and then as those numbers already said, if a customer gets their hands on it sooner and can see what it is they're actually getting their hands on sooner through the whole process, then it's win-win for everybody.
Yeah, so say time savings, definitely one. There's bucket loads of opportunities to add value into that template as well. What does the value sometimes come from? So what would you try and adopt in an image for a particular vertical?
It's like best practice and standardization. For, I suppose, for us as well, having a golden image means that we can be consistent with our messaging from end to end in projects. So we've got training workbooks that specifically ask someone to do a certain task, knowing that we've configured the system to do something specifically. So it means that our messaging and our resources are consistent from end to end. So we can, rather than customers asking us what to do, we can effectively say, well, we know what to do because we've built the image and this is how it's going to work. There might be some slight aesthetic changes to some of the reports possibly, but the structure of it, everyone adopts what we've given them as best practice.
So that's it. That's the key there. It's best practice. So they give you an opportunity to add value, adopt best practice, and save time. So they're the 3 sort of sections or subsections that we're going to just delve into a little bit further before we kind of recap things like maintenance and how to look after a golden image. Okay, so if we start with thinking about adding value, where would you look to add value first? Where would you start?
So I think for us, because we're primarily and solely an education partner, and even within that, we focus mainly on multi-academy trusts. We know that the Department for Education released a chart of accounts around 6-7 years ago. It's near on 1,000 codes. It's quite scary to look at initially, but actually when you go through it, there's a lot of predefined groupings that trusts and schools will need to submit by the end of the year. So having that chart of accounts in our build book that customers will go through and mark as active, inactive, that's their only task. They haven't got to think about new codes or changing the names. They just have to say, do I want that one, yes or no? And in our golden image, we've built all our reports to be built on ranges of those codes. The DFE allow you to change and add to this last digit. So people can have, or trusts can still have their local versions of their codes for their own management accounts. Fine, not a problem. Our ranges and our golden image has been predefined to expand on that. Whereas previously, if we were using a quick start template, we would be potentially trying to shoehorn it into somewhere that didn't necessarily fit. Or even if we built it from scratch and we were importing those account groups, we would have just selected the codes and said, these 5 codes go in that pot. Doesn't really future-proof it either on that as well. So from a sort of adding value perspective, thankfully the DFE have got a really quite straightforward chart of accounts, although every year they do update it and add new codes in. It's already kind of hard-coded that the golden image will pick up the ranges and pick it up from there. So reports, dashboards, anything like that we've got off the back of those account groups and the chart of account codes, it all falls into a nice formula that customers doesn't need to worry about it going forwards.
Yeah, and you can't do much in terms of configuration for the different applications without having control accounts, or at least a minimum set of general ledger accounts in there. So 100% I would start with the chart of accounts. With the education sector, that's maybe a little bit easier than other industries because it is standardized. But if you can load in even a recommended chart for a particular industry, everything else will fall in line on the back of that, and then you're able to open up a lot more possibilities of what you can do for things like reports, dashboards. I know when I first set up a golden image, making a decision on preloading a chart was a difficult one in terms of how much to load. Got any ideas why it used to be a bit trickier in terms of loading a chart of accounts?
I think we've only got 7 codes in our
Yeah.
golden image. So because the DFE chart of accounts is near 1,000 codes, and you think all schools are the same and all trusts are the same, that they're not. There's chunks of like boarding income codes that not many schools are ever going to have a boarding school element to it. So what we do is we load in the control accounts, so like your retained earnings, debtors, creditors, the VAT ones,
Yeah.
and then we load in the rest of what the customer gives us. So rather than putting too much in, as I say, it's a perfect balance of how much is too much. Well, you need some elements in, so like you need the control accounts so that you can build or configure taxes or VATs for so on and so forth. So we try and keep it quite vanilla, and we don't mind doing things as part of the implementation. We know the golden image will save us a lot of time, but we know we can't save everything because there's still going to be an element of custom work.
Yeah, I think the piece on the chart of accounts and it causing problems in the past was more around how rigid it used to be. So you weren't able to delete codes en masse. You weren't able to change the length of codes. So if you loaded something into your template, you might need a template that was 4 digits, another template that was 5. But the system's opened up the ability to make those changes now. So even if you do preload more than 7 codes, there's a quick way you can get rid of them all. You can update them and amend them as you see fit in terms of the length and the formatting of those. So,
Sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say what would be good about that though is that came from partner feedback.
Yeah.
Like that's a great thing about that. It's interesting, and obviously you're laughing on because it must have come across some hurdles in the past, but that feedback's been great because I've been able to tweak how we do it to make people's lives easier. And it's interesting, Liam, like you mentioning that when you first doing it, these are the sort of challenges you come up against.
Yeah.
It's in a way, it's a good thing that everyone's came up with these challenges, and it's not just Liam's ability. It's an actual sort of functionality within there. And if we can tweak it based on our feedback, then again, it might be a marginal gain, but that marginal gain is going to save time. And you accumulate that over projects. Like Ion's got well over 100 now. Like that's actually that time saving is just multiplied exponentially through it.
So the chart is definitely the place to start.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to make that rhyme, but all right. So the out-of-the-box reports are going to work. Any additional reports that you build will work as well in that scenario. Any other types of accounts? Have you got anything in on like the statistical front?
Yes. So a lot of, especially in the educational world, a lot of it is statistical based. So how many teachers have we got in school? How many are available to teach?
Yeah.
How much does a teacher's wage cost? And then working out one divided by the other, or ratios or percentages. So we've got some integrations with some third parties that do kind of not like a management system, but effectively is an MIS system for schools where old school, we did the register, and our days would have been like ticking a pen and paper. Now it's all digitized. So all the pupil numbers and the teacher numbers are all held in a digital system. We can pull that into Intacct using statistical accounts and journals, and then make computational account groups to sit on the dashboard. So we've got I think it's about a 60 component dashboard, which is just purely stats of, because as soon as the customer starts putting in their payroll journals, and whether they use the integration or whether they just import a statistical journal, it'll start producing quite key metrics straight away, and trends or versus budget and so on and so forth. So there's loads of things that we can put in as a bit of the shell and the template. So
it's really interesting because if you go onto a company's website in near on any industry now, guaranteed there'll be statistical information at the forefront of that, not just financial information. So as well as thinking about financial reports, have a think about how you can capture that statistical information. In our NFP template, we've got things like number of donations, number of donors, numbers of grants, and like you say, that those numbers are then combined with financial information to really bring those reports and dashboards to life. if you were building like a conspiracy theory template, you could have a number of times there was a global cataclysm. I'm gonna try and say it properly by the end of this episode. I'm gonna try.
Let's go around the table, see if anyone else can say it. I'm not sure we can.
Yeah. So yeah, you get real insight and value, whatever the industry, combining that statistical and financial data. Okay. What about things like customizations? So the chart's going to drive configuring your applications, a lot of the reports, but do you customize anything else? Like in terms of like platform services?
Yeah, to kind of touch on what you said before about things that you did many moons ago when it first came out and you were limited to do certain things. We know that as you go through an implementation journey with Sage Intacct, there is a few potential major pitfalls. If you toggle something on, you can't untoggle it, and the customer's stuck with it for however many years. I think we've all been there, unfortunately. So yeah, we've got a few smart rules that are put into the golden image, so that even if we've got a relatively maybe junior or new member of staff who's putting in an implementation, we've kind of hard coded the system to sort of keep them on the straight and narrow and stuff like that. So it might be something like creating things at top level, top level, school level, entry level in terms of the language that we use. We've got we started to develop into some triggers. So I know Sage have obviously developed the trigger element beyond smart events. Smart events were great and quite great for sending an email, but doesn't do an awful lot sending an email. It still requires the user to then do something off the back of that email, whereas a trigger is a bit more if this, then that, or if this, that, and then do something else. So that's been really handy and really helpful to kind of put stuff in like that. So we've kind of used them more as they're probably designed to be preventative from an implementation perspective. And we've had some customers who've started to come along and say things like we want to make mandatory fields on suppliers and customers. So they want email 1 and email 2 to be remittances and purchase order email addresses, because we know certain suppliers have one email for one and one email for the other. Some suppliers don't, they'll just have one. So it's a case of, well, if I only fill one in, remittance is going to go out, but my PO is not going to go anywhere. So we've put in page scripts or smart rules to say that certain fields are mandatory. Now, don't get me wrong, when you import the file and it's got something missing and you get loads of error messages, it can be a bit frustrating, but that's the whole point of kind of keeping it neat and tidy, and at least consistency, I think, is probably the main thing.
Yeah, so those customizations aren't limited to just smart rules and events. Like you say, there's triggers there, there's things like page scripting. So the examples you've gave are great as well. We know we've got partners that have got rules in or events in that email administrators when new users are added, so they can keep track of like license counts, things like data validation, making sure fields are entered when they should be mandatory, records are created at the right level. So yeah, perfect examples of how you could use customizations in there to add value as well. And they feed quite nicely actually into best practice and making sure best practice is followed. So where would you look at adopting best practice? Some of the stuff does cross over, but any other areas you can think of for adding best practice?
I think kind of what Ross said earlier about accountability and sort of customer journey perspective, you want to keep it consistent. So for us, it's things like standardizing sequences and workflows. So we know pretty much every school or trust will want to use requisition, order, goods received, purchase invoice, purchase credit, and then they always have non-order invoices, although some schools will want to get less of them. We know that that's going to be pretty much standard journey. So because we don't necessarily put that in our golden image because of the items and the GL codes, as we said before earlier, but things like a sequencer, PR, PO, PI, like it's relatively standard and straightforward terminology. And if we know that from a support perspective, when the customer's gone live, if they can give us that number or that reference, it's easy for us to go into the system and locate the transaction, because some of these trusts are, they're 35, 40 schools. And if you've got a specific PI number, you know that that's your Intacct sequencer. And you know some schools will even prefix it with that school ID. So it's really easy to find the transaction. So from a support perspective, from an hour perspective, it's way more efficient to have something like that set up right at the start and standardize it, rather than letting people choose their own sequences. A bit like, because as you probably said, if you had all the money in the world and it was a custom build from scratch, and you let the customers choose, you get anything under the sun.
That's it. Even the experience, right, of from a customer's perspective of coming to you as like an industry expert. What they don't want is for you to say, how would you like this area of the program to work? And then them have to go away for a couple of hours and think of sequences to use. They want you to say, these are the sequences. Would you like any amendments? And then it saves time for the customer, and that they get on board with that best practice straight away.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there quite well, actually. It's actually that sort of, we've done this before. From a client, this is your first time potentially. We've done this before. You trust us to make the right calls, but not just that, not that you just trust us. We can then show you, and that goes back to that bit about the sequences. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. This is what you'll go through, and this is the reasons why we recommend you do it. This because the benefits are A, B, and C. What me and my team's found is when we've gone out and visited partners like Ion, is when they show the client that process and they're being consistent all the way through with the terminology you mentioned. So I think that's a really good point as well, because these clients have been in that sort of environment for many years in a lot of cases. So they're used to what they know. And if we can keep that consistency when it comes to the end, the build, the project being finished, the build, which again, I know we'll come to later on, when you ask the client to go, right, can you demo that specific sequence for me? Because they've been consistent, they've seen it all the way through. It's actually not much of a daunting experience for them, because they've seen it all the way through, which I think why the NPS is pretty good on the grand scheme of things. And it actually is consistency, and it's for the client. With them in mind, this is the best way to do it, because we know so. It's basically.
Even if you like build more out than less, it's easier to just turn certain things off. So the example I'll give for best practice is really workflows. So I think, again, back to like our NFP template, we've already got in there commitment reversals, or even like cancelled order definitions. So the standard stuff doesn't always contain that. We've got stuff, pledges or grants awarded, but if somebody doesn't need that, you can just flick it off and make it inactive. So it only takes a second to switch something off in that example with workflows, rather than having to build it out. Other note on best practice I've got really is like tax solutions. So there's a lot of details, a lot of groupings, a lot of mappings. To simplify a tax solution, you could make items inactive if you wanted to. So you can really simplify tax solutions if that's something you'd look to do. Any other points on adopting best practice that are worth chatting over? You got anything else in your template? I know we're
Oh yeah, so tech heavy this bit. There's templates in the templates ultimately. So yeah, printed document templates and stuff like that, because I mean everyone who's used Intacct has probably opened a printed document template and immediately closed it as soon as they've seen it. Not many merge field experts out there, I don't think, in the world. A couple of Kevs I know that are probably quite handy with it, but moving something in a table to the left and just skewing everything out the place, a bit old like Sage RepDes, if everyone's been sort of tarnished with that in the past as well. I think having a stock template that you might just need to drop a logo on, that can save you an awful lot of time rather than building them from scratch. Again, like Ross has kind of said, you're telling them what they're going to get. I know we've done, in the early days of our implementations, we were asking customers to send us their sales invoices and credits and purchase order templates and go, well, what wording have you got? What style have you got? And we'll try and mimic that. And eventually over time, when we got a bit more confident, we were actually going, well, that's great, but just use this one instead. And no one's really come back, and maybe there's a couple of wordings at the bottom about payment terms or something like that. But on the whole, just having as much, like you said as well, like a library, putting all the things in that you think that industry may use. If they don't need it, you just leave it there. It's not going to cause any harm or good. They might even spot it and proactively reach out to you saying, oh, I've seen dunning. What does that do? And you're right, okay, brilliant. Let's turn dunning on.
Yeah. That's experience though, isn't it, as well? As you guys have grown within Intacct, you know what's the best things for it. And with that experience comes efficiency savings, which is great. I think for us, Sage Liam, that actually you guys have done this for years now, since it's come out in the UK. So the templates that you guys have built, it's based on your experiences. So whether you're a new partner who's kind of been on that journey a while, or kind of Ion at the top end, actually those golden images are there for everyone to use. actually it's just time saving, because ultimately we want the client to be onboarded quicker, have a great time while they're onboarding, be using the package.
Yeah. I know if I print a document templates, currencies.
You've been itching to talk about that, haven't you?
And no, I was going to say.
When you said that no one's out there interested, he was like, I am.
I'm interested. So for formatting in Word, they can be really tricky. And as we've like moved into different regions, there's different like number formatting that's required, different currencies. And I'm not going to lie, I've not done the work with them. I've given that to Kev Hillier and he's got them all under lock and key. So yeah, the good thing is though, if you build a template out once, you don't have to do that again. You can reuse it, or you can store it in your image. So that's great. We've covered how to add value, looking at adopting best practice in there as well. And both of those subjects really feed into saving time. So we could just repeat exactly the same again for this question I'm going to ask about saving time. But are there any other areas, not necessarily in the program, right? So you could build out extra rules. You could predefine some of the behaviors, whether you can use reversals or reclassifications, whatever. But in terms of saving time, where does building a template save you your time?
Obviously the implementation. So I think just to give some sort of numbers and some context to what pre-golden image, post-golden image maybe. So pre-golden image, we used to allocate 5 working days to do an implementation.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of contingency. Maybe it only took 4. I think we've now got it down to 3 days. So we've chopped 2 days off because we've got a golden image. So it means that technically, if we've got 2 slightly smaller customers that are planned to do their implementation in 1 week, one person could technically get through 2 implementations in 1 week. Yeah. So rather than 2 weeks of time of them just sitting, headphones on, copying and pasting data or importing and configuring things isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but they can now do 2 in 1 week. And because they're in that mode of just doing implementations, it's efficient. If you had a week on your schedule, which was part implementation and part whatever else you were doing, you could be tempted to look at an email or a Teams message and get distracted and just chip away at it. Whereas as at Ion, we've kind of got a team of implementers ultimately, and they are just head down and they can get through an awful lot of stuff. Because the golden image is there, they're starting with a massive head start. Yeah. So we can get 2 done in a week, whereas previously we were doing 1 a week, which could create a bit of a backlog and knock on to customers and thinking, I've had my build book over to you. What I mean, I've now got a 3-week gap until training starts. It's like, well, we put a bit of a backlog internally, whereas we've now got rid of that. It's now a 2-week gap, 1 week build, 1 week QA, and then straight into training and testing. So they're still in the mindset on their side that they're still doing their project. There's not a huge gap and delay in it. So for us, the big win out of it ultimately is, yeah, we've managed to create a team that does implementations and they're way more efficient. It also means from a customer's perspective, we haven't got any backlogs, because in the education world, everyone's got the same financial year. Naturally, everyone's got the same go live dates. So summer, it's the start of the summer holidays when everyone's wanting to do their training and testing. We had 8 or 9 mats all going for the same implementation week, and which previously would have created a massive headache or a capacity issue. Yeah. We've now got, we can actually get 2 done in 1 week. So it meant a better journey.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I think you touched on a really good point, even for Sage internally, from a provisioning point of view, all those things you mentioned there, it just makes our lives so much easier. I haven't got the numbers, but I know there's a massive reduction on the time taken for a provision to be created when it uses a golden image.
Yeah.
And again, if across the whole channel, say 100 was to come in a week, I know Paul Raden would love that, but if 100 would come in a week, and if all of those use a golden image, again, we would love that. Yeah. But those provisions could be done instantly instead of the time taken to do each individual bit themselves. And then even on the follow-up, any re-provisions that would be needed, well, that's just eradicated because the image is set up at the start. So there's no need for a re-provision because it's done, but then the actual time for the provision to take place, I think I can't remember off the top of my head now, but the reduction was huge when we looked at it.
I know it was a 70% reduction in re-provisioning requests when you're using a golden image. So if you've got the right template from the off, then the likelihood of you needing to reprovision something is much smaller. It's interesting actually, because I've taken a view of this as like the time saved for your customer, the how quicker it is to go live, and you've come at it from a fresh angle really, and explained how it makes a difference to your practice in terms of capacity planning and scheduling, which is really good. But I'm going to take you back to the customer. All right, so the time that you save, so I had 40% faster to go live there. You've talked about how you've gone from 5 to 3 days. What do you do with that time? Is it like repackaged or repurposed, or is it just passed on as a direct saving?
Yeah, it's probably a direct saving from the top boss that doesn't need to employ more people to the implementations. Ultimately, I think that's where probably they'll say on that one. And I think also because if you've got a golden image, sometimes you might think the knowledge of those modules and configuration drops off, because we've got some new starters who've been through the cohort at Sage recently. We can use those golden images to say, brilliant, you've been through your Sage lab, which makes them build it from scratch, and they've got to configure everything from, and there's so many tick boxes, and as we know, there's so many pitfalls. We then go, right, brilliant, you've done all the hard work at Sage, and you know how to configure one module. Here's a massive shortcut. So their knowledge then goes, right, well, I don't need to know and learn all those tick boxes again and remember that. Their brain capacity can then be focused on going, right, well, I'll investigate triggers more, or I'll do the more complicated stuff. So I think from our internal knowledge, yes, it's you tick the tick boxes and you just copy and paste them originally. The users who are doing the implementation now don't have to remember half of that stuff. So theoretically, their brain is now freed up to learn other things, how to do imports better, or how to do an import differently, or learn the API, or whatever it may be. So I think we've gained that, not to discredit the Sage cohort and all that. So it's a great build lab that you do everything from scratch, but having a golden image then just goes, brilliant, all that stuff that you've learned, great that you've learned it, but actually here's a bit of a shortcut and you can now go on and develop more things.
That's it. It's repurposing the time, and the options that you've got for repurposing the time are pretty wide. I know some partners will actually take the time that they've saved and they'll invest it up front, so they'll have a more detailed period of like discovery. But actually that time is probably best utilized in aftercare or hypercare, making sure that the product's adopted successfully. So even repackaging that 2 days that you save, because I know there's kind of big concerns, right, around golden images, that your volume of hours drops on an implementation, but it doesn't have to. The volume of hours can stay the same, but actually that there's a shift in terms of what value can we provide.
Yeah, I think the word's flexibility, because you're making a saving, whether it be 2 days, a day, or 3 days, whatever it could be. You've then got the flexibility to go, actually, based on this customer, what's their needs? Do I need to front load it in discovery? Do I need to put it at the back for UAT, because we know we want to treat them with a bit of extra care to make sure they're comfortable, or just want to pass on the saving? But I think that flexibility is ultimately there for the partner to make the right call. What's going to win them the deal? What's going to make sure that clients embedded and taken on in the right way, that ultimately they're positive with the package, which the numbers already show, that they stay with the partner, with Ion. And I think your guys' retention rates are astronomical. There's just maintain, renew, which then is further opportunity, build that relationship, and then grow from there.
Excellent. So we've covered adding value, adopting best practice, and saving time. We've just got a random section left on maintenance. So it's just like, well, how to request it's there. But before we do that, any exceptions? Anything that we can't pre-configure?
You're looking at me here. I
can give you the answer if you both.
Yes,
You've got to, haven't you?
I suppose in the Mat world, on our deals, we do have some add-ons on contracts, spend insight, trips or projects, or basic project tracking in the Sage world. We add that on every deal because they're relatively they're cost effective and they're tools that they want. but we still haven't turned those on in Golden Image because some customer may come along and want to have a third-party purchasing module. So they won't buy Spend Insight, whereas if we've got that turned on in our Golden Image, you can't turn it off and it's going to cause a bit of an issue. So I think overall the answer is probably just like add-ons, so like, or custom modules. So I think hopefully on the way out of the SIG modules, but I know they were previously some of them. So it seems like fixed asset management is another one as well, because it's a subscribe to module and the customer would need to pay for it. If it's on in the Golden Image, that's going to be on in their live environment. If they're not licensed, it's going to charge them, and we don't want to do that. So
Yeah, so absolutely think about licensing. What applications are you going to need before you switch them on? Are there any applications you're going to need to knock off? The one that I was getting at in the main there was the SIG applications. So SIG fixed assets, collections, prepaids. You actually can't pre-configure those and spin them up on a Golden Image. Okay. So the question everyone's been waiting for. Have you prepared? Have you prepared? Have you prepared an answer for this one? So I hope so. How do you request a Golden Image?
Well, I'll take this one, Liam. Basically, well, the answer, as always, is HighSpot. HighSpot has got all the information you need, but basically, within the UK implementation, there is a section all for Golden Images, all the things we've touched on there, what is included, what isn't included, but most importantly, there is the request form, which should already be a conversation with your channel executive from a partner world about, right, what is the micro vertical we're going after, what's the numbers we're looking at, and as Liam's rightly said, what do you want included in it? But basically the form is there simply to make sure that we're getting the right information up front, what you want in there, making sure that it's going to be used, basically we don't want things just sitting there unused because they're just a waste of time and a waste of space. So ultimately they're on there, they fill in the form. What happens with the form is it then comes through to the success team and we go, right, actually everything they're asking for ticks the box beautifully for a Golden Image. They're not asking for SIG modules on there. If they are, we'll just go back, have a conversation and so on like that. But ultimately it's on HighSpot, the form for the UK is there, that comes in, we give it the okay, and basically the provisioning team just need a case and they can build it right there and then. I think the thing to add as well is there is no limit on the amount of Golden Images you can have. Again, if you want your own library, I know Ion's got a couple now, maybe 2, 3. Yeah, that's brilliant because it works for that specific micro vertical. It's all free of charge as well. That we probably haven't touched on as yet, which, you know, a lot of people will enjoy. But once it's there, it's then yours. It then sits on your console for the partner to ultimately do what they want with it. So the requesting bit is fairly straightforward. It's the bit beforehand, the prep, what do we need, what do we want? Once it goes on there, it's on there and it's created by the provisioning team and passed back to the partner to maintain.
Yeah. So once you've got it, you're still going to have to build your Golden Image out. But in short there, there's HighSpot, all the information's contained there. There's also a form on HighSpot, but before filling out, maybe just have a think about putting a business plan together with exactly what you want that for, numbers and everything.
And this is where the channel executive will be a massive help. It'll support them, support any sort of work that's going on, any sort of pipeline that you have as well. It massively supports. So the channel executives are all for this as well, because again, if they know sort of the micro vertical they're going for, they can help support and help navigate into that vertical to help drive those opportunities, then obviously move on from there.
Magic. So we'll go back to maintenance. So we'll say you've got a Golden Image now, you've configured everything, all good to go, using it regularly.
Make sure you call it something that you know.
Yeah.
That's the other thing as well. Sorry, just to mention that, yeah, I would recommend putting Golden Image in there somewhere, or even just GI. Yeah. But yeah, once you've got it and you know what you're looking at.
So how often is it worth looking at updating or considering sort of maintenance for the image? Because I've got an idea in my head.
Well, releases is probably what you're thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So every release you want to be looking for new features within the core applications that you can add on or pre-configure if you need them. So any other opportunities for sort of continuous improvement?
As I say, we get loads with Ion as 30, 35 members of staff. We're not a huge organization. We sit next to the support guys. We sit next to the customer success managers. We have regular meetings across the different sort of teams for collaboration, and it's not uncommon for a customer to send in a support ticket. It might be been an error, might be something that they've done wrong. They think, okay, well, how can we prevent that? And they do someone comes up with a smart rule or a new trigger. And then there's always a question of, well, can this go in the golden image? Is there any benefit of this going in the golden image, or is there something already in there that it's done it, and maybe just timing the customer's gone live 3 years ago and they're using a slightly older version? So I think maintenance works both ways. I think it goes into the golden image when new functionality comes out. It's like customer refund coming out recently. Great example, get it turned on. It's a massive time saver. Hopefully supplier refund comes out even sooner, but yeah, well, it's different topic, different day. But also things that have gone into the golden image, we can then deploy into all customer environments as well. So we can retrospectively work backwards and go back to the customer success managers and say, look, we put this trigger in for this scenario. It might have been copying a certain field to a certain field. It updated a certain report. They can then go and deal with their customers and update and take things out of the golden image to put them into the live environments, because the nature of time is it'll always develop one way, but you don't leave your current customers behind at the same time. So
Yeah, so maintenance wise then, 2 points on the opportunities to maintain the image. Regular updates are in line with releases. Quarterly is an opportunity to update the image, but then also regular cadences just based on client feedback, on kind of feedback that you see.
Feedback all from all around. I think that's it, isn't it? Client feedback could be anything.
Yeah.
What's a problem this could fix?
But then there's also the point of having to go back into the images that are already in use, or the client environments, and potentially making updates there. But that again is maybe something that you'd look to implement through like a managed service offering, or something that's post implementation. But that's great. So only other couple of questions I've got around maintenance of the images as the demos. So I presented at Sage Future and I pulled up a golden image that was
You not see the tan?
long faded.
indoor all day.
It's long faded, right? I wish I'd never said that now. So I pulled up the template on screen that I was using, and I could see everybody sort of like squinting and thinking, what's going on here? Because all the numbers on the dashboards were just 0, right? So it was like the most lifeless shell of a template. So any tips for demoing what you've built?
Yeah, I think we've obviously our demo environments that we've got are built off in a golden image. So when we put a golden image update in, we put it into the demo, and very often actually it's the demo that determines the golden image update. So I said before about customer feedback, a lot of it is, we've got Kev who does a lot of our trust demos, and he's out and about on road shows, and you'll see other competitors and what they've got and steal an idea and turn it on and or try and mimic it in Intacct. But then yeah, like you say, because a lot of the data, you don't want to have a date in the corner that says 2023, because you think, well, I know that works, that format works. So again, the team, saying before probably about what it releases the team to do who are doing the implementations quicker, they help monitor or maintain the demo environments. So they'll import, I think someone the other day was importing a budget for the next 15 years. So they've got budgets all the way through till 2040. And then the next task is to go through and put in some actuals, and then obviously statistical accounts. So you say every year on year, just take the date out and it's kind of auto-tuned it. So I think the team that do the implementations have now been kind of, I wouldn't say roped into, but are basically going to be processes for the next 15 years into the future. So it means that, yeah, on demos that there's some stock data there, whether it's right or wrong, there's some stock data in there. And I think also that'll probably help some of the guys' debits and credits and financial knowledge. So there's an inadvertent win in there as well.
So you're going to need a separate demo instance. You can spin it up on the back of your golden image, and then the next task after that is to load in data. Maybe not 15 years worth.
Future-proofing.
I mean, that is future-proofing.
5,000 years if we're using the Egyptians.
All right. So that's fantastic. We've covered what golden images are, where you can look to start adding value, where you can adopt best practice. All that results in time saving. So when we're talking about time saving, we really delved into where you can reinvest that time saved. And then we've had a quick recap on maintenance, things like how to actually request one and how often you should consider maintenance as well. So that's it. All that's left is the final thoughts section. Jerry Springer style. I'm going to read a script to the camera to see to wrap things up. But before we do, thank you very much for coming in. Been lovely talking to you.
So that was a cataclysmic failure at all, was it?
Yeah, and you managed to say it. Fantastic. Yeah.
Over to you.
I was just going to say, good luck getting home. So in the studio, we've got windows around, can't see anything, but we've got snow in the background. Well done for making it in. Fingers crossed you get home safe. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, thank you.
Cheers. There'll always be a place for bespoke, big budget, built from the ground up implementations. Clients with the resources appreciate this level of flexibility and control. There's also a place for implementations that give a head start, appealing to clients with big or small budgets. But golden images aren't just about cost savings. They're about moving from volumes of hours to value of outcomes. As implementers, we've got the opportunities to spot trends and recognise commonalities, especially within specific industries and micro verticals. These trends and commonalities can translate into a golden image packed with pre-configured applications, reports and workflows, adding immense value. Inevitably, you'll also save time by utilising a golden image. The amount of time saved depends on the extent to which you pre-configure your template. The time can be passed on as a direct cost saving, but don't rule out reinvesting that time elsewhere. We know from experience that post-go-live support and training are often cited as areas where clients need more hand-holding. And our high-performing partners can testify that nothing supports better product adoption and renewals than premium adoption packages and additional services, workshops, strategic consulting, analytics, or ongoing optimization. Ultimately, how you choose to present that time saving is up to you. In order for you to find out more about golden images and gain approval for a golden image, we've inserted a link to our HighSpot page in the description below. If you haven't already, start speaking to your channel exec about requesting a golden image. Once you've got your image, you can get to work. It goes without saying, your image will be blank to start, so you'll need to complete all the necessary steps you'd take during a normal build. But before you do, take a moment to pause and ask yourself the following questions. Where can I save time? Where can I adopt best practice? And where can I add value? If you can answer those questions with conviction, you'll have a golden image that can give you a commercial advantage, fundamentally transforming the way you implement.